Hey, I want to tell you about a moment when I didn't speak. Not because I didn't know what to say, not because I was afraid, but because something in me knew that words would cross a line. It was one of those moments where the story was right there, ready to be shaped, explained, shared. The kind of moment that usually invites language, invites clarity, invites meaning making. And I felt it, that familiar pull to translate the experience into something consumable, something neat, something I could hand over. But instead, I stopped. There's a threshold we don't talk about very often, a place where a story is forming, but hasn't consented to being told yet. We're taught that silence is avoidance, that not explaining is withholding, that clarity is always kindness, that sometimes silence is the most respectful thing we can offer. Because not every story wants to be spoken right away. Not every truth wants to be carried out into the light. Some truths are still oriented in themselves, still deciding what they are, still learning whether the world is safe enough to receive them. In that moment, I realized something quiet but unmistakable. Speaking would have been an extraction. Silence was an act of care. So I stayed with it. I let the story remain inside its own body. I let it be unfinished, untranslated, unexplained. And something changed. Not externally. No one applauded the restraint. No insight was delivered on a clean timeline. But internally, the story softened. It stopped bracing. Consent isn't just about saying yes or no to others. It's about knowing when you are ready to cross a threshold and when you're not. It's about sensing when language will serve and when it will intrude. I think we underestimate how much violence we do to ourselves, especially by speaking too soon, by explaining before something is settled, by offering meaning before the experience has finished living in us. There are stories that need silence, the way bones need rest to knit back together. I've learned that when I don't force telling, the story eventually tells me how it wants to be told, what it needs, what it refuses, what it's willing to give. And sometimes what it needs most is privacy. Not secrecy, privacy. There's a difference. Privacy says, this matters enough to be protected. Silence says, this is still alive. If you're listening to this, I trust you already understand. You felt that moment, the one where you chose not to respond immediately, not to explain yourself, not to offer the backstory, where you let the pause do the talking. And maybe you notice what happened next, how the story didn't disappear, it deepened, how the relationship didn't break, it clarified, how something sacred stayed intact because you didn't rush it across the threshold. This isn't restraint as discipline. It's restraint as devotion. It's listening closely enough to know when silence is the most honest response you have. So if you're standing at the edge right now, between saying something and staying quiet, trust your body. Trust the tightening. Trust the easing. Trust the part of you that knows the difference between readiness and pressure. The threshold of consent is not a rule. It's a felt sense. And when you honor it, the story doesn't disappear. It learns how to breathe. Until next time, may you find the courage to live even the unfinished stories with tenderness.